Okay, it's Friday, January 13th, or Friday the 13th, and this is a pre-opening SPY report, about an hour and 15 minutes to go before the open. After yesterday's essentially stalling out bar, we had an upward bias, but it really didn't follow through that strongly after a big run up here. We are kind of skewing to the downside to start the session, but there's actually a lot of conflict in play. First of all, you can see the pre-market moves as we kind of come to the open are starting to move a lot lower. So I really don't see any big momentum break to the upside of this range that you normally want with a good signal to go long. On the other hand, you're in a lot of conflict now because the weekly chart is still green and the monthly chart is still green, and therefore this is just, if we open up weak, it's kind of a pullback kind of a scenario that may possibly turn into, if this becomes a very big down day, then maybe this weekly bar could really close very weak and it could signal some kind of failure to the downside. But we don't know really for sure what's going to happen after the open. And what I did was I drew a whole bunch of purple lines here to show you kind of, this is more of a chain reaction kind of a trade. If you want to trade to the short side, let's say the market opens up weak, and let me point it out here more on the pre-market chart. So in other words, what has to happen, if you look at let's say we open up down here and we get some kind of red follow through to start the session. Well, that move below the pre-market lows at this point doesn't even trigger the 2 down day on the daily chart. So you'd want to watch for that. Do we get to that first purple line, the low of yesterday? That will at least trigger a possible pullback. Then at that point, this is your first target. It's not much further below. So in other words, if we get a 2 down, you're just going to target this this low here from 2 days ago. That's all the market really has to do to broaden out a little lower within this uptrend, and maybe that's all you get for the day. And then if you look at the next purple line, let's say it becomes a really weak day, well, that's the point there where the weekly chart kind of turns red. So you're not even going to turn this weekly chart red until you get all the way down there. And finally, this lower purple line, which is pretty far away, that turns this monthly chart red eventually. So in other words, if you're going to get short right up here, you're going to have to monitor structure for this various chain reaction of all these levels. If this first purple line's hit, then likely we'll hit this line, but that might be all you get. If then you want to see if we really follow through and turn the weekly chart red. That would be more important going into next week. So we're just gonna have to see what happens. In other words, I think it's a tricky scenario. I have no problem with playing a pullback here for a little bit, but I don't know how much follow through you're going to get. And I think we're just going to have to find out with structure, of the 15-minute chart. Maybe we just come down a little bit and that's all you get. And then it kind of consolidates for the rest of the day. And maybe we don't even at the very beginning kind of reach this first purple line. Maybe by the open, we're somewhere up in the middle of the range. Then it's hard to know. We really, I don't see any great downside opportunities, and I don't really see the upside opportunities since we're moving up. I mean, the main thing is that I see developing in the bigger picture now is on this monthly chart. We had the reversal here a few months ago, the green follow through, and now we're just kind of consolidating with these 2 months inside of that bar. So if we're going to get a little consolidation here, it is possible to get choppiness, day to day, and still in the end kind of coil and then eventually head higher until we get a nice downside move. There was still a part of me that saw this red bar from last month that figured we had to test those lows. So maybe this choppiness in here will move down finally, but we're not going to really know that now. Now as the month is kind of almost halfway through or getting there, we're going to have to get below this purple line to really feel comfortable that we're taking out those lows. So, again, big chain reaction kind of a day if the short side unfolds early on, to kind of watch these key levels and monitor how structure unfolds relative to those levels. That's the way I see it. It might be a tough day. I would look for certain stocks. If you're going to play the downside, there are certain stocks that are a lot weaker than others, like Tesla. That might be one to watch. Other ones are more like the market, where they're just kind of pulling back after a big run up, so you don't know how much follow through you're going to get. So anyway, let's see what happens today. I have no problem playing the short side if we get a kind of red bars here to start that look like they're breaking through this pre-market low. But if so, I'm just going to really monitor the type of price action that develops towards these lines. And again, if we start out in the middle of this range, it's going to be really tricky to know, what develops. But probably skewed to the downside. I think maybe it'd be good if we open up more in the middle and then we get the red bar. So at least we'll test that low and then see if we can get to that low and that low. That might be the expectation about the best trade today, because I just don't see the upside unfolding, although you never know. Maybe we go really green to start. But if we start red in here, then at least expect that to be tested and then kind of monitor these two levels. So we'll see what happens.